Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Michelle again, stopping by to ignite your day. Hey, go ahead and share this message. If some of my previous discussions have blessed you, go ahead and share these with your friends out here in these social media streets. Today, I want to continue our discussion about leaning into growth. The whole purpose of this discussion is to encourage you to go beyond where you are, stretch yourself to become the more that God created you to be. Because we all have more in us that we can become, that we can lean into, and that we can grow. We have to step out of our comfort zone or stretch the limits of what our comfort zone is, grow our comfort zone in order to make that happen. Today, I want to use Abraham as an object lesson for these comfort zones that we're going to be discussing. This is probably going to be a little longer than 2 minutes because I'm going to take my time and just share with you what I believe I'm led to share with you today. I'm going to be reading primarily from Genesis, the 12th chapter, but I will jump in my discussion to several places in Genesis where God is dealing with Abraham and delivering the goods, just as he said he was going to do in Abraham's life. And I am going to also be using positivepsychology.com. They have a leaning into leaving the comfort zone toolkit, in which they have a graphic that describes what it's like to journey from the comfort zone to the fear zone to the learning zone and then into the growth zone. So when this story in Genesis, the 12th chapter starts, we have Abraham in his home country, surrounded by his relatives, and I imagine his friends, and he's already a fairly wealthy person. And we know this because a couple chapters down, chapter 14, when he and Sarah are entering into Egypt, it talks about how wealthy Abraham is. And so he's there with his father, and God comes to him, and God says, Go. That's the operative word here. He said, Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I want you to rest for a moment. Some of us did not experience that comfort in our homes growing up, but many of us did. But I want you to focus on a place, a home, a setting, a group of people in which you feel so comfortable. You can be yourself. You don't have to worry about anything. And someone comes to you and is literally ripping you away from that place of comfort. And God makes a point of saying, I want to remove you from your house, from your father's house, from your country, and from your kindred. Now, if that is not taking you out of your comfort zone, I do not know what is. That comfort zone, that place where you feel safe and secure, that place where you are not threatened, that place where you can live in an anxiety neutral setting but not experience any real growth, because you can produce right there where you are emotionally. You can pray right there where you are. No real need to have to go deeper. You can work right there where you are. You're in a job that you are proficient at. You know the people, you know the processes. You don't have to change it all. You can just be. But there's no growth. And I want to let you know that there's going to come a day. Y'all, I'm getting all kind of notifications on my phone. There is going to come a day when you're going to look around and you're going to say, what am I still doing in this place? Why don't you go ahead and be intentional about planning out, mapping out the vision that God has already engrafted in you for the life that he desires for you to live? Now, it doesn't say anything in the text about Abraham being afraid of going to this country. Now, please note that there is no country named at this point. So, as Abraham is leaving, he does not know the whole story. He does not even know where he's going, but he is willing to step out of his comfort zone and go, despite maybe the fear, despite the uncertainty, despite the not knowing if he's got everything he needs to care for his family as he goes. Because as you know, he took his wife Sarah, he took his nephew Lot, and he took all of his servants with him as he left. He didn't pack as if he was ever coming back. He completely let go of his comfort zone in order to move forward. He didn't worry about what his mama and daddy said about his decision, his friends. He went on and did what God said. But in verse 2, it says, this is what God said: I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you, I will curse. And in you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. So our blessings hinged upon Abraham's obedience to God, his trust in God, his faith in God, and his faith in himself to be able to accomplish what God said that he wanted him to do. And then the word said that Abraham went. He packed up his stuff and he go. So he moved out of the comfort zone into the fear zone, and then he moved into the learning zone. For me, the learning zone is that area as a woman of faith where I'm developing a relationship with God, where I'm understanding how he moves, how he works in my situations, where I don't always know what he's gonna do, but I know he's got me, and I have that consistency with him. That's the learning zone for me from a spiritual perspective, which undergirds my ability to go on my job and stretch myself. It gives me the ability to write books that I'm afraid to put out there because maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. It gives me the ability to talk to people on live stream when this is not what I would have done 3 years ago, right? It forces us to say, how am I going to fulfill this calling that God has in me? Maybe you're called to start a business or a ministry, and you got to go past your comfort zone. You might have to use some of your savings that you've been saving for something else, but you feel led to do what God is calling you to do. You might have to shift your friendships in order to make space for the new people that need to come into your life to guide you and help you along the way. Whatever you need to do, I want to encourage you to go ahead and step from the comfort zone to the fear zone to the learning zone. In the learning zone, you're dealing with whatever challenges that you face. Think about Abraham. Now, he didn't always make the right choices, but he did try to solve his problems. And over time, he learned how to trust God. When they went into Egypt, he had Sarah to say that she was his sister so that Pharaoh would not kill him in order to get Sarah because she was fine. And we try things and acquire new skills. So Abraham learned from that. And then later on, when Lot's servants and his servants started arguing, he realized they couldn't live together, so they separated. Then Lot got taken captive by some kings who were at war, and Abraham had to go after them. He knew at that point that he trusted God and not man. So when they offered him some spoils of that battle, he said, no, all I want is God. I don't want to ever owe any man anything. So he was learning and he was getting comfortable again in that setting where God had placed him. If you go on, you'll see that God is growing him through every situations that happens. God sent Melchizedek, who is a foreshadowing of Christ, to bless Abraham after they had the war where he had to go and get Lot, and Abraham paid tithes into Melchizedek. Again, he's learning as he is experiencing the things that God would have him to experience, and Melchizedek blessed him. Again, growth is happening for him, and this is spiritual growth, but also he's growing in substance and he's growing in stature. The people around him are realizing that God is with him and are respecting him. And then God starts to talk to God God starts to talk to Abraham about the covenant that he has with him. Fear not, Abraham. I am your shield and your exceedingly great reward. Good God Almighty, y'all. That's in Genesis the 15th. And he said, walk before me and be ye holy. Anyway, so he began to prophesy to him what was going to happen next. And this was another opportunity for Abraham to grow. And if you read on, you will see that Abraham and Sarah didn't have a son, and they started trying to have their own baby through Sarah's handmaiden. And that's how Ishmael was born. Later on, Isaac was born. And at that point, they were chilling because they had not only the heir, but they had a spare, right? They had Isaac and they had Ishmael. But look, God had to test him again to see if he could stretch him even more. So Isaac was laid on the altar, and God asked Abraham to offer him up. And Abraham was willing to offer him up. Now, I don't know where that is, but I don't know where you see that, but I'm going to call that the growth zone. That's the growth zone. That's when you begin to realize your aspirations. Abraham said, if God is going to take Isaac, then he's got a ram in the bush. He is able to set new goals. So in his mind, he's like, well, if Isaac is going to die, and God has already told me that through Isaac was my seed going to be called, what is God going to do? He didn't worry about what he had to do. He was concerned with what God was going to do. So Abraham was stepping into his dreams and stepping into his purposes solely by following God. So I've really done a quick job of aligning Abraham's journey with the comfort zone of leaving your comfort zone, going into your fear zone, going into your learning zone, and going into your growth zone. Where are you in this process? It's okay if you're resting in a comfort zone after just coming through a growth zone, right? There's no judgment for wherever you are along the spectrum, because you will go through this process multiple times throughout your journey. You will grow, and then you'll get into a place where you're comfortable and proficient at what you're doing, and then you'll have to do something that's going to take you to the next level. Every time you get comfortable and you will look at where you need to go next, there will be new things that you will have to try, new things that you will have to learn, and new things that you will have to experience in order to build the life that you dream of, the life that you envision, which is the abundant life that you are already promised. Hey, I hope this blessed you. I hope this is motivating you to live that life, to be that one that does what God has called him to do, and never be afraid. Well, you can be afraid. I don't ever want people to think they can't be afraid, but move past fear into action, the action that God requires. Like Abraham, when he went from that place where he was comfortable. Y'all have a blessed day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. And we are going to talk about some tips that you can take to continuously push yourself to the limits of your comfort zone. Y'all be blessed today.